note with some flowers, spring on summer palace. I'm not sure about the backstage, about the production of this film. I will try and search a little on the internet because I'm curious. I know it's Chinese, but I don't know uh, what its position is. First of all, in China, if it was made in Hong Kong. I think I've seen at the beginning some French involvement, and I'm not sure how the authorities looked at it in China because it is a story of a woman and her love story, her relationships, because she's not just involved with one man, but with a few. There's poetry inside. There's depression, sadness, romantic feeling, but also a feeling of loss, of meaninglessness, and more, which have nothing to do with the state, with politics. And in fact, I was wondering, in a different context, in a democracy, let's say, what would be the story of this woman? Would it still be the same? Because I doubt that the political background had such an impact in a way. Having said that, there is still the Beijing demonstration taking place in the background, and then coming to the front or coming on stage to be the focus of quite a few scenes, a part of the film. It's not the main story. It's not about the, I can call it the Beijing massacre, really, because so many students, so many protesters were killed by the Chinese communists, uh, who I was reading in The Economist a few days ago, do not tolerate works of art, novels, when they deal in a realistic way with issues, political issues. I would go as far as to say, never mind the Tiananmen events, demonstrations, and the following mass murder, but just issues dealing with the Communist Party, its power, its are anathema. Understand? They have they make all the effort to censor and go to the extremes to stop. Another example is that of editors in Hong Kong who disappeared. I don't know, 4 or 5 of them, when they had in their shop, in a bookshop, whatever, in their publishing house, some subversive material, with elements from the biography of this President Xi and things like that. So they just disappeared, only to come back later to repent and I don't know what. But that's evil, horrible, terrifying. So the only way they tolerate, the economist was saying, writing is science fiction. Science fiction, the censors seem to think are for children, and so if it's something in there suggesting subversive dissidency, whatever, they just ignore it. Otherwise, I think this film was not well seen, even if it's not so much talking about what the students asked, and it's not at the forefront, as I said. At one moment, the students and the protesters set official vehicles on fire. So I think it's maybe this intention of having an ambiguous, I mean, the censors could really look what the students did. They destroyed public state property, whatever, and so they were asking for it. So it's not, there's not a voice there that says, well, the party was right or that the protesters were right. It's but it's still, as to me, as subversive as it can get, because those who know have been on this planet, aware of what's going on, can read and know which side was right, especially since there's no intention of the filmmaker to push one point of view or the other. I just think that he's suggesting that they need to depict what happened, that the students tried to fight for democracy, and look what happened. I'm thinking of the image of that man with the shopping bags or whatever, stopping a column of tanks. Perhaps the most famous photo of them all. One of the most famous. Girl with a napalm in Vietnam, and a few others, but it's there in the first five. Most known and impressive and overwhelming pictures. And so the film is interesting, even if at times I was thinking that the characters appear somewhat Western to me. I mean, I was thinking of the values I know that the Chinese appreciate and are at the basis of their society, as opposed to the West. They're more consensual. They think less of the individual self and more about the community. Confucian respect for traditions, family, older people, rulers, indeed. And also, I was thinking of the classic psychology, Outliers, written by Malcolm Gladwell, also famous for Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking, and the tipping point. And in Outliers, apart from the very famous suggestion, if you want to be on top of the world, work for 10,000 or practice, exercise, piano, music, athletics, whatever you do or like, do and like. And you're on top of the world with 10,000 hours over a period of 10 years, which is something like 3 hours of serious practice every day. But then he talks about Asia and the fact that the rice field, the cultivation of rice, it's at the basis of this world, of this part of the world. And it has been for millennia until, in fact, maybe 100 years ago or so. And in large parts, it's still there today. And as opposed to corn and the other crops cultivated in the West on most of the land, the rice requires a permanent attention. Uh, you have to work on rice at dawn, there's a Chinese saying or Asian saying, I don't know exactly how, and 360, if you rise at dawn or with the sun or very early, 360 days a year, you're fine. So it's just 5 days holiday, and the New Year's, and but don't have Christmas, Chinese New Year's, and for the rest you have to work so hard. And when there's a problem in the world of today, in Asia, they throw more work at it. An important, good film.